Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Good morning, Rockingham, and welcome to the feed. It's Mike Smith. Marty's on Zoom today, and we're here with David Diaz. He's a new guest. I hope to see more of him here, but he's going to be here today because he won a Vermont fishing tournament, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But first, we're going to have Marty, and she's going to give us some local happenings.
Yeah, so we have a few things going on this week. One of the big things happening this weekend is the Bells Falls Opera House has teamed up with Athens Pizza for what they're calling the Curbside Triple Up Palooza. It's not just, the normal triple up. This is a triple up palooza. So it's Saturday, September 5th from 4 to 7 p.m. They're going to have their regular triple up options available, and then Athens Pizza is also going to be selling some of their food. So you can actually have like a full dinner triple up movie night experience. So you can order by calling or texting 802-376-6480. And I believe they will start taking orders on Friday afternoon, or you can call on Saturday. So that's this Saturday, September 5th from 4 to 7 p.m. The Bells Falls Opera House and Athens Pizza combined together for a curbside triple up palooza. And then also happening on Saturday, the River Artisans Cooperative is having a yard sale and plant sale fundraiser. That's going to be right next to Popolo on the corner of Bridge and the Square. And it's from 10 to 5 p.m. And it's a fundraiser for the River Artisans Cooperative. Because as many people probably know, one of the entities that has been very affected by COVID is local artists. Yeah. They can't have shows, they can't, and that's how they make a living. So if you're out and about on Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning between 10 and 5, stop by. They're going to have plants for sale, and they're going to have quite a few. They've previewed a few of the items on Facebook, and looks like they have some nice yard sale items.
That's great. Is it going to be around the back? Not around the back, but sort of on the side where the Fireman's Park was, the Fireman's Memorial?
I think so, because it says next to Popolo, so I'm assuming that's the open space there that they're going to have it. That would make sense to me. Yeah. Because their space is down on Canal Street, and there's really not a good space down there. Plus, it's not super visible from a sight line. Right. Everything on Canal Street you can't see. So they said next to Popolo, so I'm assuming in that little firefighter park area. Okay. Another thing coming up is the Flannel Festival. Did you see that they announced that again for this year? That is a purpose, but go for it.
Well, yeah, we gotta get some because that was really a good event last year. I don't know that you didn't go, but I had a great time there. They had good food, barbecue, 3 different bands, I think, at least 3 different bands, and It was a lot of fun. We'll try to figure out what's going on, and we'll get to you on the Flannel Fest here probably the week after next because we're trying to figure it out whether it's what the restrictions might be as far as COVID-19 and all that other stuff. But another great event. I mean, it could be a lot of fun. And then right before we go to Dave, I want to talk a little bit about the census, is that we still are taking the census. I've been going around from Springfield to Grafton to all over the place, and I just want to, thank people for being so friendly and taking the time to, talk to me and be sort of kind and gentle. And then 2, just get out there and do it yourself. You can still get online. A lot of places there's a lot of Facebook things and links that you can jump on and do it. It's how we get the money back from, you put all this money in when you pay your taxes, and it comes back by the number of people that are on the census. So if nobody lives here because they didn't get counted, then they're not going to send any money here. That's pretty much it. David, good to see you.
Glad to be here.
David and I met probably about a month ago. He's moving into a business upstairs, and we got talking about stuff, and it turns out he's a fisherman, an avid fisherman. And I didn't realize at the time. I didn't realize the level of fishermen we were talking about. I thought he was just going out, drowning some worms on a Sunday, but no, that's not it. Tell us a little bit about first about yourself. Where are you from? How did you end up in Vermont, or were you born in Vermont, or?
So I originally grew up in Rhode Island saltwater fishing. Right around the time when the Great Recession happened, it hit Rhode Island especially hard. My wife is from Brattleboro, and it never really hit Vermont all that much. My background was working on psychiatric inpatient units, so I moved up here and worked at the Retreat, which is a psychiatric hospital in Brattleboro. I don't think there's many trained mental health workers moving into the area, so that was kind of a natural fit. And then when I moved up to Brattleboro, I needed a hobby, and I got myself a $10 pole from Walmart and some little inline spinners, and it took me about 2 weeks to catch my first bass. But after I caught that first one,
You were hooked.
I was hooked. I was
bad
hooked.
pun. All right.
Yeah.
And then from there, how do you get to the point where you're doing tournaments?
So I started out and I just teach myself YouTube videos and talking to other people. And one of my buddies told me about the Rutland Bass Club. Now, I didn't know that there was such a thing, but there's these fishing clubs, and you pay a little bit of dues, and you get paired up with guys who have boats. And Champlain is only a couple hours away from here, and that's one of the best fisheries in New England. And I joined the club, and you fish with people who've been fishing for a long time, and it just increases your learning curve.
Oh, really?
These guys are phenomenal. The one guy I spend a lot of time with, his name is Jim White, and he's just a phenomenal local fisherman up there. And after a while, I felt like I got better, and you fish the state qualifying team. And then they hold regionals. This year was supposed to be at Lake Erie, but due to COVID, it was postponed twice. So every state had their own regional in their own state. So we had ours on Northern Champlain on a North Hero. And I competed this year and managed to get the win.
Nice. Excellent. That's really, that is pretty amazing. How many people were competing, would you say?
Normally, it's 10 non-boaters versus 10 boaters. This year, people from Connecticut and people from Canada weren't able to make it again due to COVID.
Yeah.
So this year, there's only 6 people competing for that regional championship. Excellent fishermen. I was down by about 4 pounds on day one. That's a pretty big deficit to overcome. But it all worked out for me on the second day, and I managed to pull it off. Yeah.
That's great. Marty, you have any questions out there?
Yeah, I do. So you talk about non-boater and boater. Can you are you primarily a non-boater competitor, or?
That's right. So there's two categories. A boater, a guy who has a boat and he fishes out of the front of the boat and he's fishing for his best 5. And then a non-boater is guys who get paired up with these boaters and they fish out of the back of the boat, and all those guys are competing against each other for their 3 heaviest fish. So you can catch multiple fish during the day, you can upgrade, and we really try to make sure that we take care of the fish. It's a valuable resource to us. There's some pretty severe penalties if you weigh in a dead fish. In fact, if one of your fish dies during the day, you can't throw that fish back in the lake. You're stuck with that fish. So all the boaters compete against each other, and all the non-boaters compete. And then whoever the champion boater is and whoever the champion non-boater is advances on to nationals. And this year that's in Pickwick Lake in Alabama. That's going to take place November 11th to 13th. I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been to Alabama, and it'd be nice to catch some fish down there.
Yeah, amazing. And I guess one of the things, when you say I was 4 pounds down, bass aren't that big. A big bass is 4 pounds, right? So if you were that much down, you were actually down a whole fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so it was almost like instead of having 3 fish, you had 2 fish.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And you have live wells, right? So the fish you're catching fish, and you keep them in the live well while you're catching other fish, and then basically you're trying to get your best. It's almost like drawing cards, isn't it? It's like trying to get your best 3 cards.
That's right.
And so you have the deck, and so you fish. How many hours? I guess that's the next question. How many hours?
The tournaments are typically 8 hours long.
Wow.
Yep.
And do you start at dawn to dusk, or is it like in the middle of the day, or do you break it up? Do you do because I always understood that fishing is better early in the morning and then late in the evening, or not late in the evening, but in the evening.
That's right. Dawn and dusk are the best times. Typically, we try to start the tournaments around 6 or 7 a.m., depending on what time of year it is. And, in the fall, we start a little later. But basically, right around sunrise is when we try to do it. And you're absolutely right. The morning is the best time, so I always get nervous if I don't catch mine right away, because as the day goes on, it gets tougher. We do also hold Thursday night shootouts to raise money for the state team. Those typically take place up north on Champlain, and those are 4-hour evening tournaments from usually about 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Oh, so they switch to the opposite. They do, instead of starting really early in the morning, you start sort of later in the afternoon and go late into the evening.
That's right.
Another prime fishing window.
Yeah,
That's
those are typically team events, and there's little payouts for those, and those are when you're trying to work together. That's another format where the guy in the front of the boat and the guy in the back of the boat are trying to put together 5 together.
Mm-hmm. Wow, interesting.
So that's a lot of fun. That becomes a team effort, and just catching the fish, that's one thing. Helping each other net the fish, helping get rid of smaller fish, because sometimes these tournaments come down to ounces.
Really?
So you have these 5 fish in the live well, and you're wrestling with those, and that's kind of like a team effort. It can get a little tricky wrestling those fish in that live well.
Because, like you said before, it's really important that you keep the fish healthy. Yeah.
Absolutely. In the summertime, if you're catching them in shallow water and that temperature in that live well gets beyond 75, 80 degrees, you got to make sure you're recirculating the water, or perhaps adding ice. The fish are the number one thing. We really try to take care of them.
Yeah. So it's not just it's really a conservation effort in a lot of ways, because you're trying to get, for you, the best thing to have happen is to get bigger and bigger fish and more of them in the lake.
And my favorite part is seeing a really big one swim away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
So
That's
it can
good.
a fish that's gotten that large has the right genetics. It's figured out how to get that big. With pike and lamprey and all the other predators out there, a big bass takes about 10 years to get to that size. It's really the best part when you release that big fish and see it healthy.
Yeah. So, Marty, I don't want to. I'm
just curious, because I believe that some bass tournaments actually happen right out on the river here, correct? Yeah. Am I correct on that?
That's right. There are some right here on the Connecticut River, yep.
Have you done any here?
Yeah.
Not for a long time. Typically, I've been fishing Lake Bomazene, which is a little further north, kind of right outside Rutland, and Champlain. I can't remember the last time I fished a tournament out of the river. It was probably a long. In fact, my first one was out of the Connecticut River, and I caught 0 fish. Wasn't great. I've gotten a little better since then.
Yeah. But normally, I mean, and I guess this is another question I would ask is, normally when I see people, like groups of people on the river, it seems to be later in the year, like October, almost when it's getting cool. Is that because the fish are more active then? Or, I mean, is that a good time to have a tournament? Or is it just that they've had tournaments everywhere else and now it's time to have a tournament here? Or?
In the summer, once that water gets, in the dead of winter and the dead of summer, those fish get really lethargic and not as active. Once those cooler temperatures come and the length of day shortening really signals to them, hey, winter's coming, it's time to feed up.
Oh.
So they're just like all the other, like bears and all the other animals kind of getting ready for the wintertime and really putting on the feed bag. So it's a really good time of year in the fall. And some of my best days have been out when it's 37 degrees in the morning, and you kind of forget how cold it is once you catch a few.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. Because you are out on a boat, and bass boats are typically like a platform, right? And so you're not in a cockpit sheltered at all. You're standing out in the elements, and whatever's happening to everything is happening to you.
Yeah, last year I was on Sebago Lake for the regionals, and one morning it was 39 degrees, and this particular gentleman's boat went 75 miles an hour. And 75 when it's 39 out. That was tough. Yeah, that was tough. I think we did a 20-minute run, so that was. That wasn't that much fun.
I'm not ready to fish now.
Yeah.
That was so you brought up a whole other point, because I've seen that is that the fishing part is really slow. You're using like an electric trolling motor, right? But the getting to the fishing part is like Le Mans or something. It's like a road race.
Oh yeah, yeah. These boats, they try to get the highest speed possible to get to the spots. And when you're talking about lakes like Champlain that are 100 miles long, going 75 miles an hour really isn't all that fast. It's such a big lake.
Yeah. Oh, so they really range then. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be in Plattsburgh and I'm going to be in the little bay there.
Some guys go from Plattsburgh all the way down to Fort Ticonderoga, and that's a good run.
Wow,
That's almost all
yeah.
the way to the southern end of the lake. Yep.
Yeah. It cuts your fishing time though, right? You have to sort of balance that out.
That's
Is that
the
part of your
risk.
strategy?
Do you stay? Do you go? What do you do?
Yeah.
Or if you're confident that, hey, you're going to bump into some big fish here, you stay around, but then you run the risk of, hey, what if they don't show up?
Yeah.
So there's, I think 90% of it's really mental. Like,
Oh.
if you lose a big fish and you haven't had a bite in a couple hours,
Then
it's really easy to get kind of spun out and start doing things that you wouldn't normally do. And so a lot of it's just that mental staying in the game type attitude.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, interesting. Like in the moment, you can't be thinking about the fish that got away.
You got to fish the cast you're fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
You're breathing life into that lure. So we use all artificials. It's up to you what you decide to use.
Yeah.
If you're trying to mimic a bluegill, if you're trying to mimic a crawdad or something, and you're trying to breathe life into that lure and really be, as you said, be in that moment and kind of imagine what your lure is doing.
Yeah.
And then to feel that little tap at the end of the line, and it's a really satisfying feeling.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. Marty?
So I'm curious because you use the term "in the moment." Is that kind of part of the allure? And pardon my pun.
That's good. That was good. I like that.
Of fishing is really having that time in your head and that time in the moment.
Absolutely. If you're using something and it's not working, and then you switch, and you kind of you're thinking of the fish's behavior. And if you're fishing that next cast, like next cast, well, 8 hours can go by really quickly if you're not really in that present moment, thinking about what you're doing, and then the payoff is you get that fish to bite, and
Yeah.
and it's really rewarding, that paying attention and that mental part of the sport.
It's almost zen-like. It's almost like being a flow sort of thing. Because I think about that when, like you're snowboarding or whatever you're doing, you're so focused on where you are right at that second that was always what I really enjoyed about those sports is there's nothing else. The world doesn't exist outside of just that thing that you're doing. That's
All your problems are going to be there when you get back, But it's very important to take that healthy break. It's for us to really be healthy. You got to take that break, and fishing is my outlet. That's my stress relief. Even if I go out there for just a couple hours in my little John boat or fishing a tournament, doesn't matter. You got to be in that moment. I remember one tournament. It was really hot, and I kind of just started blindly casting wherever. I stopped for a moment. Noticed there was a little weed bed there. I said, if I was a big fish, I'd live there. Threw my lure in there, and that ended up being the biggest fish of the day and the winning fish.
Wow.
But I caught myself just kind of going through the motions there.
Yeah.
And I was just firing off into dead water where I knew there wasn't going to be anything. And I just stopped, took a little break, and paid off. So,
Good for you.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about before, not here, but before, is the narrowness of from first to second to third place in these competitions. What was the difference between the weight of your fish that got you the championship and the next person down?
The next person down was less than a quarter of a pound away. So that's where it becomes important.
Fish too, yeah.
Yeah, that's where it becomes really important, where you're in back of the boat and you're on Lake Champlain. A lot of times there's 3-foot rollers. You got this fish, and you got the balance beams, and you got the weights, and you got the stress of the tournament.
Yeah.
And just slowing down. And if you throw out the wrong fish, a
Because
quarter of a pound could cost you a
4
lot.
ounces of nothing. Yeah,
That's right.
That's not a lot.
It's not a lot at all. Nope.
That's amazing. So, before we get too far along, you have to show us the
Where should I point this? Over there?
yeah, right there. Perfect. You got this better than I do. I'm looking at the wrong camera the whole show. I'm just telling you.
So it does say Lake Erie on it, and as I said before, it was postponed twice, so we decided to have it on Northern Champlain.
Oh, that's great. If you had done it in Lake Erie, where would you have gone out of?
We would have gone out of Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
We would
cool.
have fished Prescott Bay.
Prescott, yeah. I grew up there.
Did you?
Yeah, so that's just interesting.
Apparently, it's one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the world. I was really looking forward to it, but
Oh.
maybe regionals will be there next year. Who knows?
Good,
So.
good. We are almost out of time. I want you to, again, say who you are, and yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm David Dias, 37 years old from, well, now Brattleboro, Vermont, and we met because we're starting up a business upstairs called Frontline Foundations, and we talked about mindfulness a little bit, and it's helping vets with PTSD, police, fire, and we're looking to be up and running by October, hopefully, if everything falls together well, and I'll be going to Alabama, hopefully in November.
Yeah, I can't
And
wait.
I'm really pumped, looking forward to it, and I can't wait. And
Great,
I'm really happy to have you.
Oh yeah,
to be
and
here,
in the future you'll probably see more, David, because we do want to get together and talk a little bit about mindfulness and this whole thing, and maybe this is a great preview for that, because it really does tell you about where the thinking is on some of these things. But for now, Marty, I'm gonna
I
go
just
to
have
Cliff.
one quick question.
Oh, okay.
I know that there's a lot of cool prizes. Have you ever won any cool prizes in your fishing tournaments, like a boat or anything like that?
I have not won a boat. I've won a little bit of money. A boat is one of the prizes at Nationals, and if you win at Nationals, you move on to the Bassmaster Classic, which is like the Super Bowl of fishing. It's pretty much
really?
every tournament fisherman's dream. Yeah.
Good for you.
So some boats and some money, and yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool.
All right. Well, David, thank you for being with us today. I really enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back and bring Mike. I know he's your sidekick. And,
We're bringing Mike. Yeah, I feel a little lonely without my buddy Mike here, but that's okay.
All right, good. And we're going to go to a clip right now. This is as we were talking about fishing, I thought we'd do a little clip of the Herrick's Cove, and people could think about where they could go fishing. So here we go. This was shot on Monday night.